Hi there. This is for you guys in the group that's looking to go to CP next year. Um, I'd given you an extra video and some notes that you could work on maybe 2 weeks ago. And I'm giving you another one this week. The goal for most students is going to be to review some things from the beginning of the year. Honestly, you guys are all pretty good at that. If you want to choose not to do that assignment, that's okay with me. And kind of focus more on this assignment, that's okay. I think this is kind of an important thing to have, and it's something I would have done with you guys in school if we had had time. That's kind of beyond um, where we would have gone in class, okay? So, um, it's called the zero product property, and we'll do a little bit of graphing on this. And the other thing I probably should say is solve equations, which you may say, oh, I know how to solve equations. Um, well, let's do some ones with exponents and see how we're doing on that. Um, so, as a short review of factoring, but this leads us into where we're going, I gave you an expression that looked like this, x squared plus 3x. And a few weeks ago I said, all right, factor that. You know, what's in common? That's the strategy you need for this type that looks like this. And you would say, well, there's an x in both, so let's take that out. And then what's left is x plus 3. We took an x out, it's the only thing that they both have in common. And it's that. So that became our answer, this times this. Well, I'm going to add in right now what's called the zero product property. And you might want to write this down, or at least kind of follow along with it. So here's the premise of this. If I have two numbers, A and B, we don't know what they are right now. We could put in some numbers. What might you put in so that A times B equals 0? What's kind of the rule that happens if two numbers are multiplied and you get 0? Well, 1 has to be 0. Either A or B has to be 0 because you're getting 0 as the product. And that's the zero product property. It seems pretty simple, but here's how it works. What if I gave you x squared plus 3x equals 0? Now you guys, I'm asking you to solve for x. Tell me what x equals. This is not something like that. That's part of the review. The x is just x, and x will equal one thing. Guys and girls, x is going to have to equal two things right now because we have the x squared. Because if x squared equaled 9, what could x equal? What times itself equals 9? X equals 3. That's one answer. But x could equal negative 3 too. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. So we're going to have two answers. When we have a squared, that means it should trigger in your mind most of the time you're going to have two answers. So what do we do when we have this? Step 1 is to factor. What goes into both? And we had done that already up top. There we go. We have factored that. set each factor equal to 0. One factor, two factors. X equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. Step 3, solve both. Well, x equals 0. We don't have to solve that. Please don't think that all the time you'll get an answer of 0. Just because up here one of them is equal to 0, that only means we set the factor up equal to 0. It just so happens that 1 equals 0. The next one I show you won't equal 0. Okay, so x equals 0, but x plus 3 equals 0. We're going to take away 3 from both sides. So x equals negative 3. Okay, and those are our two answers. Either x equals 0 or x equals negative 3. It's one of those two things. And if you plugged 0 back into this, you would get 0. 0 squared plus 3 times 0. 0 plus 0 equals 0. What about negative 3? Is this true? I plugged this in right to our original equation. Negative 3 squared is 9. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. 9 plus negative 9 equals 0. It does. So that means these are the two answers. Okay? So, let me show you one more. Now, do you remember this? I had given you a little bit of extension on this. This is part of that video I asked you to do before as extra credit. So maybe you didn't do this before, so I'll have to remind you. But it does deal with the X puzzle. You're going to take this number and put it there for our X puzzle. And you'll take the number that's in the middle and you'll put it at the bottom. What were the rules of the X puzzle that I gave you? What two numbers, when you multiply them, you get 10, but when you add them together, you get 7? 2 and 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 plus 5 is 7. And so what we do is put them into a form like this. 2 is positive, so we go x plus 2. 5 is positive, so we go x plus 5. We've just factored that. Because if you then FOILed it, this times this, this times this, this times this, this times this, you will get this. If you don't believe me, you can try it out yourself. It will happen. To do those 4 multiplications, you will get that. Okay, so what were our rules if we were going to solve? What if the problem was x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0? Now it's an equation. I want to know what x equals. What does x equal in this? And don't take away 10. Don't say, oh, let's take away 10. Because that's the model of trying to isolate the x's. I know that's the first thing you'd try to do, and that's a normal thing that you try. But don't leave it here and set it equal to 0 when we have a binomial. Okay, so step 1 is to factor, and we just factored it using the X strategy. Set each factor equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X plus 5 equals 0. Those are our two factors, because this times this will give us this. So we set each factor to 0. Step 3, solve both. X plus 2 equals 0. It's negative 2. x equals -5. Folks, these are the two answers. Either x is -2 or x is -5. They both work. Plug -2 into x, do the math, and you will get 0. If you do this math, -2 squared is 4, plus -14 plus 10 equals 0. 4 plus -14, whoops, is -10 plus 10 equals 0. And it would work for -5 too. So that's how we solve these. So I've attached a paper, a work paper, that you can either print out or just kind of do on your own, that has some of these. And I want you to practice on these this week. This is probably more important because I think you're pretty good on the other stuff. Although if you want to get some review, you can do the other one too. I'm running out of time on this video to do the graphing. So on Wednesday I'll post how to graph some of these as well. Okay? So, keep up the work here, guys. I know you guys have done a good job this year. Keep it up, and let's get some practice into for next year. All right?